I just wanted to make a quick video explaining the histogram. Now, I know when you're first starting off, this whole bar up here just kind of doesn't make any sense at all. You can see here we got blacks, shadows, exposure, midtones, that's kind of what that means there, highlights, and whites. Good histogram in people's minds is something like that, where you just have like complete data in the center. The issue with this is if your scene is dark, and there's a lot of blacks and shadows, you want your histogram to mostly be on the left side because that means you're collecting information correctly. You don't want to clip it to the point where the blacks here, like obviously that doesn't look good. Keep in mind, these are JPEGs. These are completely already edited images, so they're not going to be a full representation of what a RAW file could handle. I can show you that in a bit, but for demonstration purposes, I just wanted to use these images. So as you can see here on the right, we have whites. Now, the thing about snow is that as long as as you're shooting, you can look at your histogram, as long as you keep the information to the far right, because we know snow is white, it's going to be around this area in the upper right. So what I would normally do if exposing in the winter and I have snow to work with, you don't want it to be over here. You just get muddy snow. You don't need to see detail in snow. It's not quite pleasant. So what we'll do when I'm shooting is I'll look at my histogram and I'll get my information here right to the edge. I want it to be clipping. So if you have zebra set to 100, you'll start to see zebras. And what I do is I dial it back just one stop, right about there, just so as I'm shooting, I know that I have a good exposure, but I'm going to preserve the highlights the best I can. And then once you do that, you have the data you need. As long as you're not clipping and losing information, it's going to be okay. Of course, clipping isn't bad, right? Like if you overexpose your snow, no one's going to care, right? Like the sky, of course, it matters, but you don't need to see pure detail in the snow. So let's go ahead and look at a more current example. All right, so as you can see, I chose a pretty funny example here. So we got these two dogs here playing on this beach kind of thing, and it snowed recently, so we have fresh snow on the floor, but we don't have it too much in the mountains, so we still have those greens and those midtones there. So I brought my histogram right to the right because I know there's a lot of white luminance here, and that's what we're looking for. So if I can see that there's a lot of snow in my image here on the histogram, then I know the rest of the photo is going to be decently exposed. So if I wanted like a perfect snow exposure, I would just drag it just to right where it's clipping there. So you can see it tails off right at the end here. And here's all our whites. So we have all this snow. That's what that is right there. With this image, it says there's clipping, but there is none. I just brought up the image a little bit. So you can even bring up the highlights even more. You can see like the snow, it starts to clip, and we're just going to dial it back just enough. There we go. See? That is a perfect exposure. We have the whites are white. There really isn't many blacks in the image to begin with, but of course, if we wanted to bring the blacks back, which I don't think suits this. But yeah, that's basically the histogram. Well, I hope you found that helpful, and if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments below.